This is on. Is there a light? Can you tell? Okay,
Can you hear us, Scott?
Yes, I can.
very good. Okay.
Thank you. Well, it's 6:30 and I'd like to call this meeting of the Charter Review. Oh, look at that. Is it a boy or a girl, Ted?
No microphone.
Oh, he's got no microphone. Okay.
Maybe he's on his phone.
So Ted's wife is in labor, so. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Michael, would you take the attendance, please?
Robert Brennan. Here. Scott Copley.
Here.
Scott Guthrie.
Here.
Jim Humphrey.
Here,
Brad Mayer. Here. Ben Para.
Yeah,
Sarah Repose. Here. Michael Stevens, I'm here. And Ted Tracy.
Here.
Boy or girl?
Boy.
oh, congratulations. Oh, wow.
Yeah, congratulations.
Oh, wow.
Also,
Thank you all very much.
Okay, I'll do the emergency evacuation procedure. Right out that door right there, and it leads directly outside. Old business is further discussion regarding elections, terms, party affiliation, ballots, discussion or action. I called the Board of Elections and I spoke to Greg McBurney. We were talking about going with 7 council districts and how those are apportioned. And we don't need to hire an outside company to come in and do redistricting. It can be done with the Board of Canvassers, and the Board of Elections has offered their help to do it. So I think it's simply a matter of shifting like a couple of different polling places. But the other question is whether we have to have 7 people on the school committee also. So I'll look into that, but the redistricting can be done locally, and they'll get assistance and it shouldn't cost anything. Should the voters pass, that question, as a charter change.
if you redistrict to make 7 council seats, then which ones aren't going to have a school committee seat?
Well, there'll be at least 5. Well, right now there's 5. So if we just pass the council, going 7
So
to
you'll have
council,
2 district lines, 2 different district.
you'd have 2 different.
you'd have crossing district lines. So we'll do a little more study on that. to see if-
But if you think
I
about
think
it,
that might get too messy, in my opinion.
Yeah.
if you think about it, Senate and reps right now cross. I mean, it's,
Yeah, they do.
it's similar, it's similar to that.
And no different than like, I think in representative district, you may have 2 council wards that are in one representative district and maybe 1 or 2 that are in another representative district. So it's just a matter of redrawing lines. I'll do a little more research on that too, but
Can I just interject something?
yes.
So I called him today as well, but there's a statute for everything. I don't think it really 100% applies, but it's 1711(1), and it talks about the local board of any city or town may, on and before the 60th day preceding any election, divide or redivide the city or town or any representative district in the city or town into voting districts. So they said that there's no impediment. It's all charter driven. So whatever got passed by the voters is going to be controlling, and then the local board of canvassers will have to do.
Wow.
Nothing unstable according to them, and they checked with 4 different people in the office just to make sure.
I spoke with Greg McBurney. Who did you speak with?
I don't remember.
Okay. But like I said, I know that worried about the cost and whether we would have to hire outside people that Lori had explained the other night. So.
Probably still have to
any
do the
input?
mailing, probably still have to do the mailing to let people know.
Yeah. Expensive, but,
I think it's around $15,000.
any other input on that? Do you want to do more research on the school committee side of it too, or?
Well, me, I would assume that you would just have 2 more school committees. I mean, there's nothing saying you can't have 7 on the school committee either, is there?
I thought there was some state law with regards to that. No,
No, that's just 4-year terms.
just the 4-year terms. Got
Yeah,
it.
so
So if you're gonna have 7.
it would just increase, it would increase the budget a little bit, adding 2 more.
It would also depend on how you did it. If you had 2 additional districts, you run into the conflict. If you had 2 additional town council seats at large, then it wouldn't affect the schools.
Correct.
But they wouldn't be at large if you create districts for them.
Right.
I did speak with Councilor LeBlanc, and he also agrees that more representation would be a good thing.
Yeah,
So I see someone up there that may comment on it afterwards when we get there, but any other suggestions or?
As we've talked about this, it's back to the have more representation, smaller areas that are being covered.
Easier
But
for
what-
someone to run.
But the downside is, and maybe this is just today, we always have to think about the future.
Mhm.
Today, we're having trouble getting candidates. I think that's what we talked about before. That's the downside. Now you need 7 people running, at least 7 people or more. That's the downside of the whole thing,
Yeah.
right?
I think we're trying to make it easier. I mean, if everything, if things go the way we want, if we're able to switch the terms to 2 years, we are making it a little easier. And
That's a good point.
if things go to 7, it'll be a smaller canvassing area. Just my thoughts on it.
Yeah,
Anything further?
that creates some balance. Yeah.
Okay. Section 4.2, excuse me, 4.2, section 1520 amendment of charter. Discussion action. Bob had brought up the idea of having a full charter review and have a standing committee that would be there in a certain amount of time to do it. Would it be like an entire year or for 2 years or?
Whatever it would take on it. I would say at least a year,
Yeah.
a full year.
And same amount of people, more people. It says in the Constitution 9.
I would
I'm not
not
sure if it says at
tend
least
to,
9.
I would not tend to go to too many more than 9.
Yeah.
Because then you start becoming a debate society, or you have the potential of that. Whereas 9 people you can split off into smaller groups, but there's still some central control over it. That doesn't mean that those 9 people can't go out and solicit other information from other people to bring back, which
Right.
what you would hope they would do.
Right.
The polling questions, things, things along those lines. I would think at least a year.
So this year is the 50th year of our original charter under home rule. And Bob suggested a week or so ago, looking at all of the stuff that's kind of like outdated, stuff that could be turned into ordinances and simplify the charter, make it more basic. That is one of the things I think that Sarah had thought about, simplifying it, and I think it's a great idea. I don't know if you want to vote on something on that or make a motion to start, just maybe start a document on it.
I'm willing to start a document on it. We don't have our full 9 here.
Yeah.
And in keeping with what you want to have all 9 members here to vote on it.
We voted on
We
a
did.
document for the budget with not less than 9 people.
But it wasn't a final document. to
No,
go-
it's not.
To go
So,
anywhere.
like I said, if you want to get a starting document, you want to make a motion to have Bob make a starting document on a full year charter review. I don't know what you would call it, a 50th anniversary charter review.
That's, the wording of it is something that need to be worked out.
Yeah, we can get Ray to write something up on that, but we probably wouldn't need a motion, but it's entirely up to you.
I mean, I'm willing to put something together on it, set up an initial pro-con document type of thing.
Anybody else willing to be on that little subcommittee? I will. All right,
But I bet you Sarah would be a good person to be on there.
Yeah,
Maybe she'd be
yeah.
amenable to that.
yeah, so we'll send an email to Sarah to,
Yeah,
uh,
she's brought that up a lot about moving things to ordinance,
Yeah,
as you mentioned.
She'd be a
And
really good fit. for
she'd
that.
be a good fit for it because she's a clerk in,
Yeah.
was it West Warwick? Yeah.
Knowledge your skill set.
All right, so there we go.
Just so, can I ask a question? Just so I'm clear, so it wouldn't necessarily be, and we've talked about changing that last sentence of the first paragraph about approval of the town council. You guys have talked about.
I think it will still do that.
Yeah,
But,
good point.
Yeah, this is
right,
a,
but this will be a separate paragraph specifically for this task.
Probably be a separate item.
Just looking at, there's already 15.21.
Yeah.
15.20A. We'll figure out.
Well, this would be kind of like special, it's an anniversary.
Okay.
Anything further? Financial, oh, go ahead.
For that, for the full charter, like the full charter, what we just talked about, maybe could also include language where like, if you're getting close, if it's getting close to the year and you know you're not gonna get through the entire charter, extend it another 6 months or something, like, put language in there where there isn't a finite, like, as long as there's notice given
Yeah,
to the appropriate parties that you need X amount more time. Just an idea.
okay. Sections 801, 818, 19, 830, financial provisions. We have a starting document that we kind of like voted on and got in Jim's hands, and the subcommittee is working on the language of that. I got a couple of calls about a few of the words in it. And maybe we'll have some public comment on it. Particularly, it was mentioned about the financial town meeting. Like something would trigger a financial town meeting. We were trying to stick more along with referendum.
Correct, yeah, reference, there's two levels of petitions, one after the public hearings, where they could, inject line item level petitions. The other one would be referendum petitions with appropriate guardrails or minimum amount that would then trigger a referendum vote, but only if the petition was appropriately done and verified.
Any more discussion on that? Does anybody have any input?
Just throughout section 8.19, there's references to having a lot of these decisions ratified by a financial town meeting. And with the changes that you're making overall to the budget process, that the financial town meeting wouldn't be necessary unless there's a petition and an alternative vote.
Right.
Does that, do you want to maintain consistency in that section?
Yeah, I think it was the starting document.
It's a good point.
And
That's 819, 8.19.
8.19, it references financial town meeting in A and F.
Yeah, whether it was financial town meeting, we need to pay attention to it, basically. We did, basically the motion was very high level. We're going to continue to work on it. But to your point, ultimately, we have to, provide the language, and it's got to do a search on financial town meeting throughout the whole charter, just to make sure we don't miss anything.
yeah, so that's the working document.
Good catch, yeah.
Or the basic document to continue our work from. Any other discussion on that? Wow. Section 260 Fire Department. I can tell you that Western Coventry did pass their budget Monday with a 15.65 increase with 37 voters. So we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure how well the people out there are going to like it, but it's theirs, they own it. But I think that they're concerned about what else is happening in town, and I think they're trying to address a few other things there. And we'll see how things work out for them.
What did you say their increase was?
15.65%.
15%.
I think it's to put more people on. I was told that
They're
they,
having some retention. challenges.
yeah, I was told that they were having some difficulty trying to use safer grants to put people on. So it's their ball game out there. We don't know what's going to happen in the middle of town until Central Coventry does their thing.
That's next month, right?
The ninth.
The 9th, yes. So,
But to your point, yeah, it was interesting, the Western Coventry, that was an all-day vote, right? What was
it's
that?
actually, no, it's
They just met-
actually a
they-
district meeting.
They met in a room.
Yes. So typically it's in the fire station. All fire districts, all those years and years ago, ran their district meetings on one evening in the fire station.
So that's their comparable way of voting that Central
Within-
Coventry is doing as an all-day referendum.
Yeah, so they did it within 1 hour. And I did hear someone complain that, well, what if I can't make it within that hour? So, but nevertheless, that's how
Wow.
it worked.
Okay, all right.
If your meeting's an hour and then you adjourn. It's a little archaic.
I also think that they are changing their charter. They wanted to add some provisions in there about being able to vote electronically during an
Absentee or-
emergency and stuff like that. So, it's typical, is, trying to get more and more, public participation in it. But it's a low turnout and they typically are.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I was in Anthony for a lot of years, and there were some times that we had to call people to get enough
Get a
people at the
quorum, to get a
district
quorum.
meeting
Yeah.
to hold a
Terrible.
meeting for a budget hearing. So,
but there's no guardrails, there's no threshold, you have to have X number of people, it's just whoever shows up,
Mhm.
10 people,
There
one
might be,
person.
there
Well,
might be.
no, well, in
probably a
Anthony,
quorum.
there's the minimum.
It has to be
I
a
think
certain
it's-
percentage of people in the district, voters in the district.
Yeah, in Anthony, I think we made it a certain number because nobody could figure out percentages on the night.
I
or
think they all
something.
differ.
Pretty sure it's 20 in Western Coventry.
20?
For a quarter.
Yeah.
It's not a
20.
large number.
So that there is a threshold, okay.
Yeah. So,
So that 15.6, that's well over the 4%.
Yeah, so I looked and I could not, I thought that the bill was put in by Representative Morgan to put fire departments under the 4% cap. I don't think
I
that.
think that the problem with that though, is that, 4% on 116 million gets you a fair amount of cash to work with. 4% on 2 million doesn't get you very much. And with inflation being what it is, it might not be
Sure.
enough. So
Yeah.
when the budget is small enough, the percentages fail.
Sure. That makes sense.
It's funny, it was because I was looking at my fire district bill that you brought with me. It was like, I was seeing the rate go down 2 consecutive years. Now we're 2022.
Now you're
And
being asked to pay a supplemental, which is not inclusive
yeah,
of.
I want to wrap my head around that, I guess,
So here's how that works,
Mhm.
because we could do a tax increase and your percentage can still go down based on how much the overall assessed value of the whole town goes
It's still
up.
based on the valuation. Yeah,
Right,
right.
so if the entire valuation of the town goes up 10%, then the percentage wise will go down to adjust for that.
Right, because that's exactly what happened when we did the reevaluation. The rate went down, it was a math problem. I ended up paying a lot more.
Some go up,
Bottom
some
line.
stay the same.
That's
some
the
go
bottom
down.
Bottom line. I have the Johnson's Pond valuation.
So
The increase in property from the.
Interesting. Got it, yeah.
as far as how further along we go with this issue in our commission is going to be tentative to what happens on the 9th.
Right.
And then we'll see if the council has to step in,
That's what action occurs or happens. but-
whether they, file for bankruptcy again, and it goes to the courts again. Because, they'll have outstanding contracts that'll have to be paid and they'll be right back in court.
Even with the 15.65, they still need the 3 million, right?
Yes,
I think see
Yeah.
breakdown of, does it break down that 3 million exist anywhere?
Well, they said they wanted to put $1 million in the rainy day fund. This is what they said in the council chamber the other night, and then they wanted $1 million for capital improvements, which I assume would be trucks and fire stations and whatever else needs to be done, and then another $1 million to put a 4th platoon on. Because they didn't do it, over the past 3
Mhm.
years where the state changed, the overtime law.
I
So-
went into the website, which is a really nice website, but they have a really nice timeline of what has been occurring, key things that have been occurring in central Coventry, but it ends in 2018 when everything was going great. So
Well,
today's news is not there.
she lost her race for governor and now she's back, so the problem is back. Sorry, I have to say that, but
Everything wasn't there. Okay, got it.
anything further? If not, public comment. Any hands?
People there.
Ted, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, so I'm not seeing too many hands go up. Does anybody in the room have any public comment?
No, I think the only thing I would mention is I know a pulse in the room is the idea of a ballot question on the fire department. I mean, it's something have been talking about.
Yeah,
But to your point, we have to see where things go.
yeah, so, I think what the original plan would be to ask the voters what they wanted to do, because you can't keep having these up and down things happening all over the place, because it affects people's lives, so to speak.
That's a good, we're talking about doing, surveys and stuff. That might be a good one. I don't know what your thoughts are, Ben. Some more of the things that we're starting to work on, even getting some survey feedback was very helpful, I thought. Maybe we can, next meeting, think about some of the questions we might want to add.
The fire department issues also control, dictate businesses coming in as well.
For sure. Yeah.
I
A
think-
successful fire department.
I think Mr. Pascal brought up at the council meeting that if you don't have a fire department, you can't put kids in school. Can't have restaurants open. This is not a joke. This is a serious issue. And
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we
so,
got some good public comment in the last meeting or so too, since they continue to get educated.
so I'm not seeing any hands. I am seeing faces, so I just want to make sure that if anybody wanted to say something, they're welcome to. Scott, you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I got all the information. So, yeah, I mean, the fire department is, it's a big matter, and, it's got to be dealt with at some point. So hopefully, everybody can come to some conclusion of what to do. But you're right, you can't, if you don't have a fire department, you can't put people in restaurants and you can't put kids in school, then, that's a big problem. So the issue of fire departments and districts, it has to be addressed. I think it's been long overdue. And hopefully, everyone can put their heads together and come up with something that's gonna work out for the best of the taxpayers and provide protection for the people of Coventry.
Great, thank you. Rick,
Scott. Sorry, I don't know where you are in your agenda. I had to step out. I came back. I heard the beginning of the meeting. Are you at public comment yet?
yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. I probably missed a substantial portion, but I was here for the thoughts on having more representation in the town. And I just want to throw out, I think redoing into 7 voting districts might cause, we already have 19 polling places in our town because of the way the state has divvied up, senatorial representative districts and so forth. I would be in favor of 2 at-large seats, and there's a reason for that. First of all, you don't have to then automatically go to 7 representatives on the school committee. which is already a problem. The last time, although we have a special election now, in the last general election, all 3 school committee seats were unopposed. District 1, the last time there was a special election, was unopposed. And I believe the election prior, I don't know if there was a contest in District 4 or not. So trying to attract people for that is a problem already. But when you go to see, what I see happening now with the 5 districts is you tend to pit certain districts against each other for the good of each district rather than for the good of the town. And what 2 at-large seats does is it adds 2 more votes to the whole community, the community as a whole. And also, when you were talking about recruiting candidates, remember, if they don't have to come from a specific district, at-large seats, people can file to run for an at-large seat and live anywhere in town, from the Connecticut border all the way back to West Warwick, and from Situate all the way down to West Greenwich. So I think if you were going to add seats to the council, the at-large seats would be the way to go, with one caveat, and that is, again, those individuals are going to be campaigning across the entire town, assuming they actually have, a race. There's more than one candidate that files, and to do that every 2 years, I think, can be a challenge. So I'm not saying I'd be opposed to 2-year terms, but I think 4-year terms staggered, where one at-large seat is up in the even years and another at-large seat is up 2 years later, I guess, not to say even and odd, but that way, I don't know how you'd start it off, but it was just a thought. But I would be in favor of at-large seats.
Good point.
That's on that issue. I missed the part about what's going on with the budget, but I did watch a little bit of the clips. I like the thought of the manager comes up with a budget based on his department heads, and the council can either accept it or make changes to it and put it to the voters. And if the voters aren't in favor of it, after the council passes it, then there should be some type of a mechanism where they can gather enough signatures to change it. Or, I mean, I did see someone made a motion, I think it was Mr. Humphrey. I think that should have been a maximum of X amount of dollars, or what would put the town at the state cap. You can't amend the town council's budget and then have it exceed the state cap. I'm not sure how that's done now at the financial town meeting, but and again, it's a net. It doesn't mean you can't cut one item and then add a lot to another item, but I don't think the overall amount of the budget should change more than either a set dollar amount based on a percentage of the total town budget, or the state cap on the Senate. I guess it's 30/50. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, those were the only 2 things that I wanted to comment on tonight.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments that were made. It spurred a thought that might be more workable because of the concerns that were raised about at-large positions and campaigning across the entire town and the bigger area. What if you split it and you added a 6th council seat and then created one at-large mayor? And the mayor could be 2-year terms, while the council are 4-year terms, and you have both the representation and the stability. But right now, you don't have a mayor. The council president is selected from among the council members themselves, but it would give the residents an opportunity to elect a figurehead representative at the head of government that's going to chair the meetings. And from the charter, you could decide whether the mayor would vote only in cases of a tie, or vote all the time, or have the option to vote or not vote, would be the representative of the town, and would still be a kind of weak mayor, strong council, council manager form of government. But you could still have that role that gets you the townwide representation in one position without having to make 2 council members be the same as the other council members, but different because they have to canvass the whole town. Just some thoughts.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So the sixth person. Fourth vote by the mayor. Or if you had a fifth, if you stayed with 5 council people and a mayor, the mayor wouldn't vote, he would be the administrator. Am I correct?
No, if you made it 6 on the council with the mayor, then the mayor, yeah, maybe a non-voting mayor, but they're a functional figurehead ceremonial mayor. They wouldn't necessarily have to be administrative.
Mhm. A little more research we can do.
Let me just chime in. If you go down, I know I was in Florida not too long ago. The mayor is a figurehead. They still have a town, a city manager that takes care of the day-to-day operations. The mayoral position is more ceremonial, and I'm not sure that they even have a vote on the council. I could be mistaken. They still have an odd number of council people, but the mayor is more like a dignitary for the town. In fact, that I was surprised that the salary for the mayor of DeLand, Florida is like less than the council members. The city manager basically runs the day-to-day operations. If we were going to go to the mayoral form, then I would suggest we do something like Warwick or, the other cities and towns where the mayor runs the day-to-day and basically anything that requires money and certain actions purchasing, then they have to go to the council and just get the approval. And at that point, it can either be modified and negotiated, but you'd still need an odd number of council people to take care of the vote. Yeah, irregardless. But I think you know how the mayoral thing worked out in West Warwick. There was a perception that all of a sudden when prices spiked, it was because they had a mayor, because the mayor needs his administration, he's got to have staff. You start adding all this stuff up, and they kind of blamed that for some of the town's financial woes. And next thing you know, it was back to a council, town manager type government. I just think
I would just point out that you can have a mayor without changing your form of government.
correct.
Either
But
way.
Unless Warwick lasted how many years? 6?
Yeah, about
Yeah,
that.
something like that. The point I was trying to make with the at-large things is what I see in this council, I'm sorry, with the way things have grown in town over the year, there's demographics in each of the districts. Right now, for example, District 2 has a lot of young families and a lot of new houses. The West End has always been the more rural end. The things they like to see the town do or not do is vastly different from some of the seniors that live in the other side of town. And then you get that divisiveness, and to try to get a consensus, I think sometimes for the good of the town instead of the good of somebody's district is a problem. And that also, I think, goes part and parcel with partisan elections, and then cutting the terms back to 2 years. So if people don't like the way things are going, they can change it. I mean, if you remember, I think there was a council person from District 5 that was like the longest serving council person in town. What was he on? Like at least 12 years, if not more. It might have been 16 years he was on the council, and we only had 2-year terms. So I mean, if the person's doing a great job and they're responsive, I don't think it's a problem getting reelected every 2 years. And by the same token, when you have someone that doesn't do a good job, they can be, challenged every 2 years instead of having to wait 4. But I think the at-large seats provide some stability in terms of looking at the overall community as a whole, growth, jobs, all those things where, one end of town might say, oh, that's not important to me. I don't really care about sewers. I live out in the West End. I'll never see those. So you end up with these votes that are very close, or you can't get the votes to pass. So.
Oh, good.
Good feedback.
Yes. Well, homework we'll have to do, we'll take a look at that, I was asked about the mayor thing too last week, and glad somebody else brought it up instead of me. Any more discussion on that?
Yeah, something to think about. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, we're still in. Did you put your hand up again, Rick?
Yeah, well, I didn't touch on the fire districts, and I'm sorry, I must have missed that discussion. Did Are you planning on making a charter change on that, or is that going to be up to the council, depending on what the outcome is with the CCFD?
Well, what we had thought about the fire department was to put a charter question on to create a municipal fire department. But the law that's in the code says that if a fire district fails, the town council has to take action under section 1202, is it?
260.
No, 260 is the code, but in the charter, it says that the town council is responsible for fire protection and ancillary, like rescue services and stuff, so. 1202, yeah. So the 260 is kind of like buried deep, you know, that was put in the code 30 years before the first charter was written. So it's there. And I reminded the council of that the last time I spoke with them. So, you know, we'll just have to see how things play out in central Coventry, because the voters in central Coventry, if they're sick and tired of the way it's being run and they want to close it down, then the town has to act.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be, I guess, as a fallback, just in case, because we might get out of the situation this year and be in it again next year. I guess it wouldn't hurt to put a question on there. Shall there be a town-wide municipal fire department, just to
Well, we
see what
can-
the flavor is?
Well, that would still happen, but my thoughts were that it may not get that far. So if they can convince the voters to give them, you know, that money, then our question more than likely will still go on the ballot, you know, for, you know, on 2022 about a municipal.
Yeah, because I think if it passes, they're kicking the can down the road, so.
Well, I can't say. I
Okay,
disagree.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Scott?
I'm good.
You're
Yeah,
good?
I'm good.
All right, because I know Rick was talking about the at-large and we discussed that a few meetings ago about, you know, it would be expensive, it would be daunting.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you did an at-large seat for Coventry, like I said, it's bigger than a Senate seat, and I ran for a Senate seat twice. And a Senate seat normally has about 35,000 people in it.
Yeah.
Coventry is almost at what, 38 now? And you're talking
36, yeah.
about trying to 36, so you're trying to door knock from Western Coventry to West Warwick.
It's the area.
If you have an opponent, if you don't have an opponent, then you just walk in. But I just think, for me personally, like we talked about trying to get people to run, and going to 2-year terms, I think will make it easier for people to run. But to have an at-large seat to run for it, I think that might deter, you know, 99% of the people, you know. And if somebody who does want to run for an at-large seat, if they ever came on here and wanted to speak about it, then, you know, I'd be really surprised. But I think to have an two or one at-large seat, it's tough. I don't know if you get anybody to run for it. So that's just my opinion, because what I experienced running for a race twice in the Senate seat, and you know, Scott, you've been in the House of Representatives and the House districts, is hard to run for too, you know, putting up signs and trying to door knock and do all those things. And I mean, you know, to do a mailer for a Senate seat, you know, a mailer costs thousands of dollars. So you're running for a town council seat, and you have to come up with money if you have an opponent or, you know, multiple opponents to, you know, thousands of dollars, you know, because to try to door knock on, you know, 5,000-6,000 houses, you got to start in April, you know, and go all the way to basically the weekend before the weekend of the election, and you might not even hit all of them if you can't, you know. So
just one more comment. Usually, and again, it could go the way that you said, but a lot of times I know in Cranston, the at-large seat usually ends up, the person that runs for it is someone that's previously served on the council. So they've already got some name recognition, and the people in their district already know them. They've been in the press before, and then they put their name on the ballot. and, take it from there. So, but your point's well taken. You're right. It could be a challenge and then you might not get anyone to run and then you're stuck with a vacant seat. So then what do you do?
Yeah.
Good point.
Give them a 6-year term, 10-year term.
You could give them a 4-year term.
Well, yeah, I was just
The
gonna
other
say
five
that.
are 2-year.
Could you do the at-large 4-year terms, but the rest of the smaller districts 2-year terms? Is that something
you
that's
could totally do
equitable?
That's the incentive. You canvass the whole town, you're on
Yeah.
4 years. And then you could have the town council on the 2-year cycle
Yeah.
and the 2 at large completely offset that. So then we never have a complete turnover as well.
One large.
But one at large. Sorry.
And back. All right.
Yeah. that's a good point, yeah.
Any further discussion or public comment? Ted, you still there?
Still here, but I got nothing to add.
Are you smiling?
I'm good, right?
All
We're
right,
good right now, so
congratulations.
That's wonderful. Super.
thank you all very much.
So if there's no more comment, they entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes
Aye.
Adjourned.